Welcome everyone to the Pick Six Podcast, where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. I'm your host, Chris Cheng, and we have ourselves another victory Sunday. The Canes taking down NC State 41-7. Guys, before we get into the game, please, if you could, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out here. Approximately about 90% of you are not who are seeing this, and we would love to get other people to see this. So do me that favor, please. And if you have any story ideas or you want to send me a nasty note, drop us a line in the email below, the pick6guys@gmail.com. Let us know, what do you guys want to hear and see us talk about? So let's jump into it. Again, Miami destroying, utterly dominating, like we were talking about in the instant reaction. NC State, my God, guys, this was hands down the most dominant and complete game Miami has played all season. I would even say over the USF performance, mainly because USF is a G5 school. Not to disrespect them too much, but when you're playing a team who themselves took the conference favorite to the woodshed just the week prior, or technically 2 weeks prior, and they got a bye week, showing up and showing out the way we did, I thought it was incredible. I thought it was like, oh, maybe we woke up. Maybe we are doing the right thing. I think the national media may not see or recognize the significance of the game, mainly because they're going to see NC State, they're going to see an unranked team, they're going to see a team that is currently 5-5, 2-4 in the conference. But let's not beat around the bush. This was supposed to be a good team, and this was supposed to present a challenge. And I think if you look at old Miami teams, going the way the game went with a field goal and a fumble to start the game, we could have seen an older Miami and a more immature Miami slump, regress, take a step back. Instead, we saw a team bounce back largely on the backs of our defense, which I'm going to make no apologies for that. I think that's great considering what we dealt with last year. So let's get into the game really quick. First and foremost, I talked about some things that I thought that needed to do. I thought they first needed to set the edge. Bain and Mesidor need to not bite too early and force Bailey to run up the middle and not get outside. We did not let Bailey do anything with his feet. As a matter of fact, CJ Bailey only was able to get 11 yards all day. A lot of those on scrambles, nothing designed, really. And I thought, again, they not only did they set those edges, but they brought a ton of pressure. So check on that box. Linebackers, I said, need to play discipline and not allow big gaps to open up for the running backs to shoot through. I think we did that. I thought linebackers played really well. While they weren't the star and they weren't doing a lot of the heavy lifting that maybe the secondary or that the D line was doing, I thought they played their part. They made sure that the gaps were closed and that they were able to cover any men that came in their zones. Next, we need to talk about the team playing smart, eliminating costly penalties. I thought we did a great job on that. Still receiving some penalties. I'll talk about those in a few seconds, but I think for the most part, we were able to eliminate and to minimize a lot of the penalties. And last but not least, most important, we needed to come out with our heads on fire, with a fast start, and put this team away. And I think we did that. Again, first quarter aside, first two drives aside, phenomenal. There were maybe 2 or 3 other drives throughout the night that were not ideal. But when you look at this in its totality, you look at it in its whole, this gives a ton of us. It's like the Godfather, right? It's like just when I get out, they just pull me right back in. And it's like right when I'm done sipping the Kool-Aid, I'm like, I'm not doing it again. I'm not going to let you guys, they're pulling me back in, guys. They are pulling me back in. I am once again crushing up the Kool-Aid and snorting it. It is just, you feel really good. And I think, listen, we can poo-poo on all the mistakes that were made. We can talk about the fumble, but again, I think when you look at the totality of this game in its entirety, I think this was an A+ showing, something that the team desperately needed heading into the final 2 games of the season. I don't think Virginia Tech will be a challenge. Pitt, we saw what they did against Notre Dame, which wasn't much. I had talked about it in the preview. You should go check that out. How I thought this could possibly be the beginning of the decline for Pitt for the remainder of their season. I don't think they're going to fare as well as Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech also didn't look that great against BC, so I don't know. That game could go either way, but still, I don't think Pitt will present the challenge it did. Maybe they will. We'll get into that in 2 weeks when we preview that game. But coming out of this game feeling super, super confident. Again, those penalties that Miami received, what did we go for? We had roughly 8 penalties for 75 yards. Again, not ideal. I think two of those penalties, which I wanted to talk about, were a little egregious. I thought they were a little bit, they could go either way. That was the illegal shift that negated Malachi Tony's touchdown pass. And then there was this second quarter defensive pass interference on Xavier Lucas that I thought was a little suspect. I understood why it was called. He didn't look back. But again, I thought the contact was fair. I thought he got there on time, but that's neither here nor there. Let's jump into first the offense. Let's talk about what we did as an offense. I thought it was incredible. I mean, across the board, there were so many good things. We'll first start with Gerard Pringle, the true freshman, making not his debut, but his debut as a starter and really, really showing you why he was really important to get and why people have been clamoring for him to get touches. The man was unstoppable, or at least it felt like it, carrying for 17 carries for 116 yards. The man averaged 6.8 yards a carry, almost 7 yards a carry. That is just ideal. While he didn't score any touchdowns, I think he really helped set the tone. He really helped Miami kind of extend plays, but not only that, was another threat. And we're going to get into that right now. Miami going going into their pocket and pulling out all the necessary weapons. Carson Beck, though, first let's get into that. 21 for 27, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 291 yards, basically nearly 300 yards last night in that game. Malachi Tony throwing a ridiculous catch to JoJo Trader for 40 yards, I believe it was. What was that? Yeah, I think it was for about 44 yards. Insane, insane play. Loved seeing the gadget play. And then it was also amazing seeing Miami use a lot of their younger guys and players who may have not seen the field as much. Got a really great feeling. I was alluding to it in the instant reaction about really going down the depth chart, right? And using all of the weapons, not just some, not just the ones that we like to use and we're comfortable with, but literally all of them. We saw Keelan Marion. I mean, this guy balled out. What did Keelan Marion had? Keelan Marion had 7 receptions for 96 yards, averaging 13.7 yards a catch. That is insane. And then we saw other guys really, really getting into the game and making their presence felt. Joshua Moore, JoJo Trader, Nikar, Dalen Upshaw, all these guys, again, getting touches, making plays. It was great to see. There was one point where I kind of forget some of these guys' numbers, right? So I'll have the depth chart up while I'm watching the game, and literally it's like check, check, check. All the guys getting in. I thought that out of all the games, this game was by far the most ideal look that we've had all year. And from the aspect of we saw personnel changing, we saw different looks and formations, we saw different types of plays. It's like it was amazing to see. And I know you can feel the energy right now, as excited as I am to talk about this game when it comes to the offense. But it also leaves some to the imagination to wondering, why wasn't this happening all season? This was the offense that a lot of us who follow the Canes and have been watching the Canes through not only spring but in fall camp, saying, "Hey, like these guys are legit. Why are we not do this?" We don't know the story. Again, we're not behind closed doors, so we don't know whether there was maybe a political thing, maybe maybe the guys weren't ready and this was kind of like, hey, we just had to pull the ripcord and luckily the shoot came out and we were saved. Who knows? But it gives me a lot of hope because, like I said, we can use this. And it seemed like, I was talking about momentum a few games ago, kind of transferring between games, sometimes even between quarters, and then throughout the season. And I think you kind of saw this as one of the first games, and I'm really trying to like remember right now, but I'm almost definitive when I say this, that this was the first game where you could see us carry over the things that were successful from the last game. So you could see the success that we had against Syracuse and the play calling and the personnel changes kind of transition all the way over to this game. And we didn't skip a beat. There were very few times where I felt like it was, we're doing the A gap thing again. We're doing the screen to Malachi Tony again. A lot of mixing it up. Again, I don't know if this would like lends credence to the rumor that, Mario is controlling the play calling over Dawson and Dawson is finally getting some freedom and ability to call his own plays. But you also kind of got to wonder when you're watching it, like, hey, like We're definitely not the same team. This is definitely not the same offense that's been called the entire season. So listen, better late than never in the time that you need it. And again, since we are so desperate, hey, why not? Right? I mean, a lot of these gadget plays that we're doing are fun to see. It's great to see us use our weapons that are just not what their face value is, i.e. Malachi Tony, even throwing, I mean, Malachi Tony was 1 for 2 for 44 yards. Again, can't beat that, right? And then the second pass that he missed, just basically overthrown it. That would have been an easy touchdown to Gerard Pringle, I think. I mean, again, I think a lot of the excitement that you can kind of hear and see come out of me right now isn't just because we beat them 41-7. It was, again, that box score does not delineate how dominant this team was. I mean, this game could have easily been 52 to 0. And we'll get into the defense in a minute, but I mean, this was just a shellacking. And what's really my hope, I mean, we obviously see Miami moving up 2 spots in the ranking to number 14 in the AP poll, 15 in the coaches poll. That's neither here nor there, but we'll get into the ranking. But I think what's going to make me sad about the AP and coaches poll is the fact that I'm not sure if people actually watch the game. I think the CFP will, and we'll get into that a little bit later at the end of this episode about how this will impact Miami's ranking. But I don't think people really watch it because I think they just see 41-7. Maybe they watched at halftime. They thought we would have been up higher. They seen NC State. They're like, it's a 5-5, a 500 team. I get it, but if you really watch this game, if you're familiar at all with the conference, this again was a very, one-sided affair. I also liked seeing Dawson really coach up Emory Williams. We got to see Emory Williams come in the fourth quarter. We also got to see Luke Nickel. That was great. I mean, it was one drive, but I'm glad we got to see him. But it was really great to see Dawson really coach up Emory in the second team in their drive, specifically their second drive, because you could kind of see it sputtering. It was a little hot and cold. There were moments where that second team was really kind of moving the ball, and then they kind of got stuck. I don't blame them. Again, it's the second team. It's garbage time. I'm not that mad at it, but I still love the tenacity of Shannon Dawson to really coach these guys up to expect greatness with them and not allow them to just like slack off and just go through the motions. So that gives me hope. Kind of wish I would have seen those guys a little bit earlier, but you understand as a coach why they probably did it. Moving over to the defense, I mean, I know I'm kind of burying the lead here, but I mean, this was the unit of the game. I mean, 41 points are amazing. And like I just mentioned, it probably would have been 52 had we played lights out, or more lights out than what we did. But the defense, I mean, you have to say this. Not only were they dominant, but once again, the defense gave life to the team and propelled the game into our favor, shifting the momentum completely with both of Jacoby Thomas's interceptions. The first one being a pick six, which, by the way, has to be one of the highlights of the year. If not, CJ Daniels can get the Notre Dame, OBJ catch for the offense. If I'm picking a defensive play of the year, it's got to be the pick six for Jacoby Thomas, mainly because man not only picked the ball, but told CJ Bailey it's on site. Like he told him, let's go. Let's go. Belted him, trucked him into the end zone. I mean, that by far, with the Sean Taylor tribute tape on him carrying it on his back. Again, I love the Jacoby Thomas pickup. When we had Alex Dono on the show, I said he was probably one of my favorite pickups in the transfer portal, if not my favorite pickup. So again, the defense set the tone, really got the offense and the team riled up. I think at the end of the day, the back-to-back picks not only gave us momentum, but it really, really forced North Carolina State back on their heels, completely disrupted their game plan. I think when you look at it too, I think NC State really tried sticking with their game plan, but sadly, I don't think their scheme is what's best when you're playing a team like Miami. They not only have the talent, but the talent in the specific spots of D end and D line where we have. See, I kept feeling like CJ Bailey in his was taking too long in his looks, and his dropbacks were just way, way too long. They were almost like 6 or 7 steps at least minimum. And when you're playing a team like Miami, you got to follow the cues of SMU and Louisville. Quick, get it out. Let your athletes make the moves they need to make. And again, just try and move as fast as an up tempo as you possibly can to try and exhaust the creatures we have on our team. I don't think, like I said, NC State took what Louisville and SMU did, and I think that was the detriment that they had. They kept sticking with their game plan, and honestly, like if you think about it, up until 2 minutes left in the third quarter, North Carolina State never crossed the 50-yard line. Like, let that sit in. That's how dominant the defense was. Then you were shutting them out till there were 2 minutes left in the game. Little upset with that. I really wanted the donut. I won't lie. I wanted the complete shutout, but you can't always get what you want, right? And I think the fact that we held them, I had highlighted going into this game. Hey, they got two awesome running backs in Jaden Scott and Hollywood Smothers. Hollywood Smothers had -2 yards in his return. -2 yards. Do you know their main running back, the other guy, Jaden Scott, 14 yards. That's it. 23 yards total. That is incredible for a defense, and especially playing a team. Again, this is not, and no disrespect, but this was not Bethune-Cookman. This was not FAMU. This was NC State. I know, 500 team. They're 2-4 in the ACC, but this is a team that beat two of the top ranked teams in the ACC in Virginia and Georgia Tech. So it's not like we were playing a cupcake team. Another thing, they went 3-11, NC State. 3 for 11 on third down conversions, basically unable to convert, unable to move the ball. We talked about the two interceptions, one of them being a pick six, which I'm loving. That's 2 weeks in a row with pick sixes. If we can keep this up in Blacksburg, I'm totally down for that. I love that. I mean, it's just a callback to the podcast, right? Only allowing, another thing, the defense, only allowing 9 first down compared to Miami's 28. That's something that's literally like a high school team. That would be like if you put a high school team on the field, that's probably what they would achieve if that was the case. And so I think what Miami did last night, if what I think is going to happen, which is I think the CFP is going to be a little bit more gracious than the AP and the coaches poll. I don't think a lot of coaches, and I don't blame them. I mean, they're out coaching. How were they able to watch? So they're going to keep Miami in that 15 spot. I think AP voters, we've seen, I mean, you can go on Reddit and you can see all of the questionable calls and ballots that people are handing in. It's not real. I think it needs to be investigated, to be honest with you. And if it was up to me, we would get rid of rankings altogether and just do things based on standings, because that makes sense, right? I know. Wild concept. But when we look at the CFP, I think they watch a little bit more than the AP voters and they're paying a little bit more attention, I think they're going to see Miami for who they are. And I think not only for who they are, what they were hoping for. Because if we look, I'm going to jump over really quick. Let's jump over to the rankings really quick. I got them up here. If you look, right, everyone here from 4 through 8 jumped up at least a spot. Oklahoma jumping up 3 spots. You see this person right here at number 9? Why do you think they didn't move up? Why do you think they did? They put B to A on Pitt, a team that a lot of people thought was a dark horse to make the playoffs and maybe even win the ACC. What makes you think? Something tells me, and I'm going to go little tinfoil hat there, bringing it back, that they're not ready to move Notre Dame up, and you see Miami jumping the way it is because I think if Miami wins out, and even if Notre Dame wins out too, which they probably will, they know they're going to switch spots with Miami. I think realistically, Miami will probably get somewhere between where Texas Tech is and where Notre Dame currently is in the playoffs, anywhere between 6 and 9 realistically. I say that because my best guess is that we end up on Tuesday somewhere around 13 or 14. 14 being like they just are going with the AP and they don't really believe us yet. But something tells me we could even maybe get up to 12. with the hope of getting to number 8 by the end of the year for this exact reason. Like I was pointing out, Notre Dame didn't move. I think if the committee knows they can't allow Notre Dame into the playoffs without having us in the head-to-head. So in other words, we win out, Notre Dame wins out. Again, people are creating this drama, and I don't think it's going to be drama. I think the committee, if they see what we do and what we've been doing, they're going to honor it. They're going to say, hey, they won head to head. We have to honor. If we don't, what is the point of the games? I mean, again, you're probably thinking, Chris, you're giving them way too much credit, but just something weird tells me, again, the AP voters leaving them at 9. It's a little sus, especially when they showed. I mean, in any other week, if Miami beat Pitt the way they did, I mean, if Notre Dame beat Pitt the way they did, they would have easily jumped 2 or 3 spots, especially with the weekend we had, right? With Alabama going down. Um, I really I could see them holding that number 9 spot for us. And here's why I go to that, right? So you look here and you see the top 7, it's pretty solidified. Ohio State only has, I think, Michigan left. Yeah. They have Rutgers and Michigan left. That's all they have left. They're most likely win both. And even if they do lose to Michigan, let's just say, God forbid, they're only going to fall at max to maybe 6, 7, right? Indiana's only got Purdue left, so they're going to stay there. And even if, God forbid, they lost, they would probably only drop to like maybe 7 or 8. Texas A&M, they could drop. But again, if they lose, they would have to lose to Texas by a lot to fall below the top 7 or 8. And then they would have to lose the SEC championship if and when they go, right? Georgia, same exact thing. Georgia's a little bit different in the sense that they have Georgia Tech still left and the SEC championship. But again, you see them at that 4 spot. I think that drubbing of Texas that we saw will probably keep them somewhere in that 4 to 7 range, even if they drop one of those 2 games. Ole Miss has no one, so they're most likely going to stay in that 5, maybe drop to a 6 should Texas Tech blow out whoever they play in their conference championship. Oregon, I mean, again, barring some crazy things that might happen, but even still, Indiana has the head-to-head on Oregon, so they would still go to the Big Ten championship. So Oregon and Ole Miss are pretty much going to stay where they're at, if not drop maybe 1 spot. You've got Texas Tech, who we just talked about. They have the possibility. If you remember, I was talking last week, I think could see them in the 4 or 5 spot should they win out, and should they win out convincingly, because they have a great defense. I think Oklahoma will stay where they're roughly at because they really don't have much. They're not going to contend for the SEC championship. So they're kind of like in an Ole Miss spot, but just a little bit further down the rung. The Notre Dame spot we were just talking about, I think is really reserved for Miami or Notre Dame. I can't see us jumping up any higher, barring massive chaos in the SEC and the Big Ten. I think Alabama will win out. They're probably going to be out of the contention. BYU, they still got Cincinnati, and they still have to play if they win out. They still got to play in the Big 12 championship. Vanderbilt still has Tennessee, and I think we will naturally. I think you'll see it this week. Mark my words. You'll see us jump Utah in the CFP. 100%. There is also a doomsday scenario, guys, where everyone else above us wins out, no one moves. So, i.e., Vanderbilt beats Tennessee, BYU wins out, but still loses to Texas Tech. Again, at best, we're at 12. It would be really, really hard, I think, for the committee, unless they drop Notre Dame to about 11 or 12 this week, to throw Miami in. Because again, you're going to have all these teams up here, all of this log jam that's up here not really moving, because a lot of the schedule is favored to them, and they're not going to penalize these top 4 teams for playing in their conference championships, especially the 2 biggest championships. So we still need a lot of help. We still need teams to lose and lose in the games that I had highlighted in the last video. But with the way we won, as convincingly as we did, I think it puts us in a really good position moving forward. And I feel really good when it comes to Miami's chances at making the playoffs. Again, like I stated in the previous video, it all is contingent upon whether Miami wins out or not. But after last night, I think we can. And I'm pretty convinced we are. Again, it's probably the Kool-Aid high still kicking in, but I think we can do it. And I'm going to hope that we do it. But we'll see you guys. We got a couple videos this week. I got an awesome interview coming up, guys, this week with an incredible content creator who I think is going to provide some insight into a program that all of us are interested to know what's happening. And then we'll have our preview for Virginia Tech later this week. We have made it, guys, to another Victory Sunday recap episode. Be good, y'all. Win this week. Have a great Monday. And as always, go Canes.